Look, so what is the excretion process? So in our excretion process, so we are doing over here excretory product and their elimination. So what is the process of excretion? Look, in the process of excretion, what happens? Like we excrete out the nitrogenous waste. So from where does this nitrogenous waste come? Right. So look, here are the three things which have been described. So these are the things which are responsible for production of the excretory product. Look. So first thing, is it carbohydrate? No, carbohydrate is not responsible for excretory product. Actually, carbohydrate is a complex compound. The basic unit or basic monomer of carbohydrate is glucose. So what happens whenever we eat glucose, some part of the glucose is utilized in our body for the energy production or energy generation. And for the rest of glucose part, what happens that the extra glucose that get stored in our liver in the form of glycogen, right? So extra glucose is stored in our liver in the form of glycogen, right? So glucose do not generate any kind of the excretory product, right? Then what happened? Now come to the fat. So we eat fat. The basic monomer of fat is fatty acid. What happened? The fat which is utilized by our body, that go in body, and the extra fat which is not utilized by our body, that is stored in our stomach, in our thigh, in our chest, in our rest of the body part is under the skin, in adipose tissue. So yes, there is some arrangement of storage of fat as well. There is some arrangement of storage of carbohydrate as well. But when it comes to the protein broken down into small unit, that is the amino acid. But the amino acid, some of the part of the amino acid is utilized in our body, but extra amino acid after the utilization, they cannot be stored in our body. So our body do not have any part of or any process of storage of glucose, right? Now this is this RCONH2. This is the generic formula of what? Glucose. What is this R? R is actually alkyl group. So alkyl group. So what happened with the extra amino acid? So these are the amino acid. This alkyl group is converted into sugar and stored in liver. Now this CONH2, this suffix part, this is amide group and carboxylic group. So what happened? This CONH2 is converted into NH2CONH2, that is a urea, and urea is filtered by the kidney and removed from our body in the form of urine. So yes, this is the protein which is responsible for formation of urea and urine, right? So we do not have, so why excretion takes place? We do not have any mechanism in our body to store the amino acid. Hence, amino acids are converted in the form of urea, extra amino acid. Some of the part is converted in the form of sugar, and some of the part is removed from here and converted in the form of urea, and urea is excreted out from the body in the form of urine. So that's why the excretion takes place in our body, right? Is it clear? Why does excretion takes place? Keep on telling me. Is that clear, Nara? How does the urea formation takes place? And why does urea formation takes place? Fine. Now come to the next part. Mode of excretion. This is important. Mode of excretion. This is important for your examination. A monotelic or a monotelism, right? So some of the organism, so who are monotelic organism and what is amonotelism? Some of the organism, they excrete their nitrogenous waste in the form of ammonia, right? Means in the form of gases, right? So these kind of the organism are called ammonotelic organism, right? And the process is called ammonotelism. Example: protozoa, leech, arthropod, right? Molluscans and earthworm. Here I have put double tick on earthworm because earthworm have two mode of excretion. Let's go ahead. The next is ureotelic or ureotelism. So those organisms which excrete their nitrogenous waste in the form of urea. So those organisms are called ureotelic, and this kind of the excretion is called ureotelism. Example: earthworm, human, turtle, alligator, and other mammals. Here you can see the earthworm have two mode of excretion, that is ammonotelic and ureotelic. Ammonotelic and ureotelic. So when earthworm have ample amount of water, means water is more around the environment, then the earthworm will be ammonotelic. It will excrete ammonia, right? Most of the organisms which are aquatic, they excrete ammonia. Whenever the earthworm have scarcity of water or is have less water in environment, then it will be ureotelic. So that is the mode of that's why it switches into mode of nutrition, right? Now here I have written a note. Urea cycle discovered by Hans Crab and Kurt Sack, right? Kurt Henselier, sorry. Urea cycle is discovered by Hans Crab and Kurt Henselier in 1932. That's why it is also called Crab-Henselier cycle, right? And urea is produced in by this cycle, and the cycle goes on inside our liver, right? So you have to focus on earthworm. Now, what is the urepotelism? So there are some of the organisms which excrete uric acid as a excretory product or as a nitrogen excretion. The basic thing is that uric acid is non-toxic and it is almost insoluble in blood. That's why it is least toxic excretory product produced by the animals, right? So, and it can be stored for longer time. That's why it is, and basically ureotelic or ureotelism are those organisms, those which are found in the arid region or where the scarcity of water takes place. So they are the land reptiles like lizards, snakes, snails, and cockroach. They are the basically uricotelic organisms. Keep on mind that there is two, uricotelic and ureotelic. Ureotelic excrete urea and uricotelic excrete uric acid, right? And uric acid is solid and it can be stored for longer time, right? Next is aminotelism. So there are certain organisms which directly excrete amino acid, right? Which directly excrete amino acid. Excrete amino acid as such. Amino acid as such. So what they do? They utilize some of the part of amino acid and rest of the part they are excreted out by the body, right? So like molluscans, echinoderms. So they are the octopus, snail, starfish, right? They are the basically those organisms which are aminotelic, right? Next is guanotelism. So guanotelism, there is only one organism till date I have gone through which secrete guanine as a nitrogenous base, right? As a nitrogenous base, and the example is only one and only, that is a spider. So spider excrete the guanine as excretory product, and that's why it is called guanotelic. And this question actually have been asked in NEET examination. So basically, for your school examination, there are three important: ureotelic, uricotelic, aminotelic, right? And guanotelism, right? This is important for your medical examination. So tell me, is it clear? Is that clear? Mode of excretion. Okay, great. Now come to the next part. Human excretory system. So first thing which I told you that is important for school examination, what the mode of nutrition: ureotelic, uricotelic, and ammonotelic. Now this diagram can be asked by your school teacher as a 3-marker question, right? Only diagram. So diagram is important. Make an important note in your diagram. This is important diagram from this chapter. And kidney diagram. There are 2 diagrams which are important for your school exam. Look. So this is human excretory system. We do not have all these the organs which are present in pair in our body. So both organs are not equal in size basically. And the same thing with the kidney. So a right side kidney is a bit lower position and left side kidney is a bit in higher position, as in positioning, right? And at the you can see at the top of the kidney there are adrenal gland. So this is left kidney, this is the right kidney. Left kidney have left adrenal gland, right kidney have a right adrenal gland. So they do have adrenal gland. So adrenal gland are those which secrete adrenaline. We have studied in a lot in the chemical coordination. So they secrete adrenaline. Now there are 2 pipes. In first inferior vena cava and aorta. Aorta bring the blood inside the kidney. So this arrow is shown over here. So aorta it bring the blood from the heart. So now from aorta there is a sub branches, renal vein and renal artery, right? So renal vein. So both of there are 2 renal artery. From aorta 2 renal artery rises. They takes infiltered or unfiltered or impure blood to the kidney, in left kidney and right kidney. Filtration of blood takes place. After getting filtered, the blood is given back to the body with the help of renal vein, and then blood goes back again back into body. So what kidney do, every time blood reaches to the kidney takes the some amount of the urea and some amount of the water. Water and urea both are the excreted out with the help of ureter. Ureter excrete out the urea and water, and this urea and water get collected in urinary bladder. So ureter are those tubes which bring the urine from kidney to the urinary bladder. It remains filled inside the urinary bladder. So there are two, actually there are 2 we can say valve like structure. These are the sphincter muscles. Sphincter muscle, there are 2 sphincter muscles. They work like valve. So when the pressure is higher, they will open automatically, but we can control it up to certain extent. So sphincter muscles, they close the valve. When we go for the urination, the sphincter muscles open and then urine pass through the urethra, right? So this was the diagram of human excretory system. So as I have told you, this diagram is completely important. If they do ask with you at this diagram as a question, so I think it should be a 3-marker question in your question, right? And for 3-marker question, at least you have to label 8 label. At least you have to put 8 label in diagram. Is that clear, Nara? Okay. Human, look, this is the urinary bladder actually, and this is the human kidney. The next diagram which is important for you, that is this diagram, the lateral section of kidney, right? LS of the kidney. So this is the actually anatomical structure, or we can say LS of the kidney, right? Here we see the anatomy of, when you can say this is the anatomy of kidney, right? So look, this kidney remains closed with a membrane called renal fascia, right? And kidney is basically 11 centimeter long, 5 centimeter wide, and 3 centimeter thick, right? And the weight of kidney is 150 to 135 gram, right? Below the renal fascia, there are certain tissues called adipose tissues, right? So these adipose tissues make a covering of kidney that is called adipose capsule, right? Below the adipose capsule, there are again one more layer that is called renal capsule. So this is the renal capsule. Inside the renal capsule, there is a cortex, right? This part is cortex, and inside the inner side like inner side to the cortex, there is a medulla, right? Nephrons are found that these are the position of nephron. half of the nephron are found in cortex region, and half of the nephron are found in medulla region, right? These branches are called calyces. So these big branches are called major calyces, and these small branches are called minor calyces. At the at the top of these minor calyces, there are renal papilla, and from renal papilla, there are number of the rays. They are called medullary pyramid. They arise out over there, right? And this is the renal artery which bring the blood, and renal vein, it takes away the blood, right? And this part is called renal pelvis, and this is called urethra. So this is the structure of kidney. Have a look of this structure and let me know, is it clear? This is important. They can ask you again. This is again 3-marker question, and again I say, if they do ask as a 3-marker question, at least you must label 8 or 10. 8 or 10 labeling should be over there for getting 3 out of 3. Tell me. Okay, great. Now come to the diagram of urinary bladder. This is the diagram of urinary bladder, but it is least important. I don't think so that, but just have a look. This is urinary bladder. The outer layer of urinary bladder, that is these are the wall of urinary bladder. Obviously, they are made up of epithelium, and the inner layer, inner lining of bladder, this is made up of transitional epithelium. Means different layer of epithelium. So these are called transitional epithelium. And those pipeline which bring urine, we have already understood that these are called urethra. They bring urine to the urinary bladder, and the structure where both of the ureter open, that is called trigone. These are the opening of urinary ureter. Ureter bring the urine, and urine filled over here. I have already told there are 2 sphincter, internal sphincter and external sphincter. When we feel to go for urination, on that time internal sphincter actually opens, and when we just go for urine, then external sphincter open. External sphincter is voluntary, but up to certain extent, right? Not beyond that extent. You cannot control it unlimited. Of limited control, you have limited control, right? And the pore from where the urine goes out of the body, that is called urethra or urethral orifice, right? So this was the structure of urinary bladder. Clear? Is that clear, Nahara? Okay. Now come to the next part. The structure of nephron. Another important diagram. Yes, I forgot to tell you, this is another important diagram. This diagram is very important. So if they do ask you, you have to make actually this diagram. These are the structural and functional unit of what? Kidney, right? So basically, the kidney cells or basic unit of the kidney, like a basic unit of brain or nervous system is neuron. So like the same way, the basic unit of kidney or excretory system is nephron, right? They are the nephron. So these are the structure of nephron or diagram of nephron. So those part which are those pipeline which bring blood inside, they are called actually arteriole or renal arteriole. So they bring the blood inside, and those part which bring back the filtered blood, they are the called arteriole from glomerulus. Right? They are also arteriole. So if arteriole is bringing the blood and arteriole is going out. Right? So that part which take or that filter the urine or urea, that is called glomerulus, right? Glomerulus have fine tubules, and it takes the urea and plus water. Now this yellow color structure, this structure which is near to the glomerulus, this is called proximal convoluted tubule, PCT, proximal convoluted tubule, right? So PCT is that called proximity means hota hai, means near to nearby, right? So those part which are nearby to glomerulus, they are called proximal convoluted tubule, PCT. And from the PCT, then the whatever it have filtered, the content which I filtered, or that is not only urea and water, it have some important content as well. So here the glomerulus filter the urea and some water content. This is called filtrate. We do not use urine term for this. We call it filtrate. So it take the filtrate. Filtrate is mean urea, water, and some important content. Now the filtrate passes through it and goes down like this way. And this U-shaped structure is called loop of Henle with capillary network. So this is a loop of Henle, and these capillary wrap around the all this nephron, right? Now this descending part is descending loop and ascending part is ascending loop. So this is the loop of Henle. Then this part is called digital convoluted tubule, right? So we use the term DCT for it, DCT. So this is called distal convoluted tubule. So DCT stand for distal convoluted tubule, right? That is called DCT. And this DCT, it get connect in a pipeline that is called collecting duct, right? Collecting duct. And when this come to the collecting duct, here we start using term urine, right? Now here you can use the term urine. Whenever this filtrate pass through this loop of Henle, DCT, and PCT, these capillaries, they again extract back the important component like urea, like water, extra water, amino acid, some rest of the chemical, right? So that's how the excretion, that's how the filtration takes place, and that is the function of nephron. So look, this is the again another diagram. This is the functional diagram. So which bring the blood inside for filtration, that is called efferent. Which take away, that is called efferent. Which bring inside, that is called afferent. Which take away, which is called efferent. And this is glomerulus. This is made up of fine tubule, right? And Bowman's capsule takes the excretory product. And at this point, excretory product is called filtrate. Filtrate have urea, water, mineral, glucose, and rest of the important component. Now this is PCT, this is loop of Henle, this is DCT, this is collecting tube, right? Whenever this filtrate pass through it, the important component are taken back by the body. And now when it comes to when it reaches to the collecting duct, here we start using the term urine. Urine. Is that clear? Nara? Look, this is the actually structure of nephron. Right? This is the structure of nephron. Look, the upper part is called cortex and lower part is called medulla. Cortex and medulla. Look, afferent bring the now how this is the process of urine formation. So in single page, I have explained how does the urine formation takes place. And you have to remember only those things which are underlined, like So try to understand one by one. From afferent part, blood come inside and efferent goes. We have already understood. Now, whatever taken by that is called filtrate. Here at PCT, drugs, penicillin, and rest of the things are taken by the filtrate, right? Here, 65% of the substances are taken back or absorbed back from the filtrate. It takes sodium and potassium by active process. Active process means by the expense of ATP, at the expense of ATP, right? Potassium, chloride, sodium, hormones, glucose, amino acids, and water. That is taken back by the filtrate because these are the important component. They cannot go out of the body because they are important for us, right? Only just we want the urea and urea to throw back out of the body because that is harmful of that is a toxic for our blood and body. Now the filtrate reaches to the loop of Henle. This part is found in the medulla part. This upper part, cortex part, lower part, medulla part. Here, the water is again reabsorbed in descending limb. This is the loop of Henle. Ascending limb is impermeable to water, right? But it is permeable for the urea and NaCl. So here, the NaCl is taken back, but what it is impermeable for water, right? Again, this filtrate goes upward. It reaches to DCT, distal convoluted tubule. Again, DCT takes back the sodium ion, and sodium ion are taken back at the DCT under the influence of aldosterone hormone, which is responsible for active reabsorption of sodium, and it is secreted by the adrenal gland, right? So sodium is taken back by the body or kidney from the filtrate. Now, water is taken back at DCT, while water is reabsorbed or by at the DCT under the influence of ADH. So that is the secreted by the posterior pituitary, right? And this is the connecting tubule. Connecting tubule bring the filtrate in the this part. This is called collecting duct, right? Sodium is reabsorbed under the influence of aldosterone, and now it is called urine over here. So we use the term urine over here, and this collecting duct, it takes it absorbs the again sodium, and sodium is absorbed under the influence of aldosterone, and glucose is absorbed by active process, and now the urine is given back to the this urethra, and urethra take it to urinary bladder. So that's how the urine formation takes place. So what you have to remember, three things: active process or passive process, and what kind of the substance absorbed at DCT, what kind of the substance reabsorbed at the DCT, at loop of Henle, and collecting them. So, and you have to take care of two enzymes, aldosterone, ADH, right? These are the two enzymes. So you have to take care, hormones, not enzymes, sorry. So there are two hormones which are responsible for absorption of sodium and water respectively, right? So this was the complete process of urine. Now tell me, have a glance over here and please let me know. Is that clear or not? Okay, clear. Fine. So come to the next topic. Next topic is micturition. Micturition means a removal of urine from our body, right? That process is basically called micturition. Now, how does the micturition? So you have to write that micturition is the process of removal of the body from or urine, removal of the urine. I'm sorry. Micturition is the process of removal of urine from our body. Means basically removal of urine from our kidney. So look, these are the nerves. So urination process is controlled by the autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system is that nervous system which work automatically, means it is not under our body control or under the control of brain, means this is basically involuntary. But yes, we have some voluntary control over here. So there are sympathetic nerve. What sympathetic nerve do? Sympathetic nerve, look, there are two sympathetic nerve. One goes to urinary bladder, another to internal sphincter, right? So what they do, they control the internal sphincter. So they closes the internal sphincter and they relax the word. This one, this part, urinary bladder, right? So when urinary bladder relax and internal sphincter closes down. So what happened? This is called nerve of filling, right? This is called nerve of filling. So why it is called nerve of filling? Nerve of filling. It is called nerve of filling because when urinary bladder expand and this wall internal sphincter get closed, then what happened? Urine start filling down, right? When urinary bladder filled, then what happened? This parasympathetic nervous system start working. It control the urinary bladder and it control the internal sphincter. What happened? What it do? It put the pressure on urinary bladder and open the internal sphincter. Hence, it is called emptying, nerve of emptying, and it is responsible for micturition because it open the wall and put the pressure on urinary bladder. That's why urine is pushes out, right? But there is one more nerve that is called somatic nerve. Somatic nerve control the external sphincter up to certain extent, right? So when we control the urine, that urinary bladder is filled, but still we are controlling. Then what is then? Somatic nerve is working. It is under the voluntary control, but up to certain extent, right? It is under the voluntary control, but up to certain extent, right? It closes down the external sphincter, right? And it is voluntary control when we go for urine. So this is also open and urine passes out. Micturition takes place. Tell me, the micturition is again a 3-marker question. It is important for your school examination. Nephron diagram, LS of kidney, diagram of excretory system. These 3 diagrams are important. And the question which are important, urine formation. If they will ask you urine formation, then they will ask you 5-marker question, right? That is a 5-marker, which means full 4-marker or 5-marker. That's whatever they give the weightage. That is the full question. And the short answer are the those which I have already told you. Tell me, is that clear? Yes, Nara, is it clear? Okay. Now come to the next topic. Now, what is the artificial kidney? Yes, this is called actually dialyzing process or dialysis, right? So this is hemodialysis, or normally we call it dialysis. So you must have seen those people whose kidney is not working, they have to go for dialysis. So dialysis is the artificial kidney, and filtration of urea takes place in the blood artificially. So David Hume and Joseph Kelly at the Parietal Bones Birmingham Hospital in Boston, they discovered this device. Blood is taken by the radial artery, right? So radial artery, there is an artery in our hand. So it is near to the radius. So the blood is taken out from the radial artery, and the arterial pressure is monitored over here. The blood removed for the cleaning, and then injection of heparin is injected. So heparin is anti-clotting agent. It do not allow the blood to clot in the body and even outside of the body. There is a motor or pump which create a pressure. With the pressure, this blood is pumped out, right? And now inflow of the is monitored. The pressure is monitored. Now the blood goes inside a chamber. That chamber, in the chamber, there are certain tubes. So these tubes are made up of cellophane, right? So blood filled inside the blood passes through these cellophane tubules, and around the cellophane tubules, cellophane are permeable for urea, only urea, and not for the rest of the component. So there is a liquid go inside and come outside, and that liquid is have equal density to the blood. It do not have only urea and the rest of the components present over here. So urea diffuses out from the cellophane membrane through the cellophane membrane when blood passes through these tubules. So urea diffuses out, then blood goes to the another like in another way, another side of the this one dialyzer, or when this blood is again pumped in, clean blood is returned to the body. It is pumped in with the help of another tubules, right? And that's how the filtration of urea takes place in artificial kidney. And this process called hemodialysis, means dialysis or filtration of the blood. Tell me, is that clear? Yes, Nara. Okay, fine. So after this, the next is disorder. What are the disorder of kidney? So disorder of kidney, here are certain disorder. Uremia, there is a disease called uremia. That is accumulation of urea takes place in blood due to damage of kidney. And urea is toxic for a human. Like even a human can die if excess urea get collected in our body. Renal calculi, which is normally known as kidney stone. So there are salt crystals which are made up of calcium oxalate. They get collected in our kidney. So this is called renal calculi or kidney stone. Hypertension, that is kidney secrete a renin. When the level of renin increases, then high blood pressure takes place. That is called hypertension. Uh, Renal failure means the kidney failure when kidney stops working. That is called renal failure. And diabetes insipidus. What happened when excess of ADH? ADH, full form of ADH is antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone. So when ADH, antidiuretic hormone, when excess of ADH takes place, then the blood become dilute, right? Sorry, urine become diluted urine. So this disease is called diabetes insipidus. And normally the diabetes which we call that sugar or diabetes, that is diabetes mellitus, right? So these are the some disorder of kidney. Clear? Is that clear, Nara? Okay. So last but not the least, there is juxtaglomerular apparatus, JGA. This is the diagram of JGA. What happened? So this juxtaglomerular apparatus, just Look, this is the juxtaglommular apparatus. So this is the afferent tubule, this is afferent tubule, this is the afferent tubule, this is DCT. Between these three, there is certain area, there are granular cells. These are called JG. These yellow cells are called JG, juxtaglommular apparatus. They secrete the renin. Renin produces the angiotensinogen, right? That is an inactive form, right? Angiotensinogen, right? Angiotensinogen converted into angiotensin, that is the active form, and it increases the blood pressure, right? So that is the function of juxtaglommular apparatus. So these granular cells are called GG. So that's it for the excretory system. Tell me, is that complete chapter is clear? And even like have a glance with your NCRT and let me know if there is any query. We have completed this chapter, complete revision of the chapter. Yeah, definitely. I can explain it again. JJ, so look, this is the afferent tubule, which bring the blood inside. This is the glomerulus, this part. So this is the it bring blood inside. This is the efferent tubule, which bring blood, which takes away the blood, and this is the DCT, distal convoluted tubule. So all these three meet or interact, or we can say touch, right, with each other. So where they come into contact, between them there are certain granular cells. These cells are called JGA, juxtaglomerular apparatus. So these granular cells where I have encircled, this is called GGA. So GGA, they have a granular enzyme that is called renin. Renin is an enzyme which is responsible for secretion of angiotensinogen. Angiotensinogen is an inactive form. Now, angiotensinogen converted, it goes into blood and converted into angiotensin, which is active form. And these angiotensin is responsible for increasing the blood pressure. Hence, the juxtaglommular apparatus is responsible for increasing the blood pressure with the help of by secreting the angiotensinogen, right? So that is the function of GG, and this is structure is called G. Is that clear? Tell me, Nana, is that clear? Everything is clear? Fine. Tell me if there is anything else, any heading, subheading, or you have any question. Yeah, sure. Please let me know. Whole chapter. Okay. Okay. I'm just trying, Nara, because it's a very big chapter. So just let me start it. Look, this is the human skeletal system. Right? So give me just 1 second. I'm coming back. Give me just 1 second. I'll be back in 1 minute. Yes. So this is the human skeleton system. So skeleton system can be divided in two parts: exoskeleton and endoskeleton. So exoskeleton covers the hair, nails, etc., like our skin. Endoskeleton contain the skeletal muscles and bones, right? Now, what is the function of skeleton system? Here we are going to study about the endoskeleton part, right? Bone and muscular part, right? So this is the endoskeleton system. So whenever we study the endoskeleton system, now here there are some functions. So first function is to support the body. So they give support to our body. Next is protection. They protect the soft organ like heart, like lungs, and digestive system and all that, kidney. Next is movement. Yes, they are responsible for movement in our body, hand, neck, and but all the body bones and muscles. They are responsible for making the movement. Uh, Next, body form. Yes, they give shape to our body. Then they are responsible for making the body forms. Blood formation. So in our bone marrow, formation of RBC, WBC, and platelet takes place. So hence they are also responsible for the formation of the blood. Seventh one is breathing and hearing. So we have already studied that our ribs are responsible for like helping in breathing. So intercostal muscles and external intercostal muscles, they are also responsible for breathing. So they help in the breathing. Yes. Mineral reservation, calcium, phosphate, and all that. These minerals get deposited in our bones. So these are the functions of the skeleton. Clear? Okay. Look, this is the structure of a skull. So skull, this is important. They won't ask you, like, this is not important for your school examination. This will be actually important for your medical exam. But yes, you must have an idea about the bone of, like, they can ask you what are the, how many bones are there in, like, one marker question, like how many bones are there in cranium, like in our cranium and ear bones. And so look, we divide complete skull in three parts. The cranium part means this brain cover, brain box. Ear bones, right? So which those bones, they are invisible, but they are found inside our ear. We have already understood in neural system. Hyoid bones, and fourth is the bone of the faces. Cranium is made up of 8 bones, right? And this cranium is called brain box because brain remains placed inside the cranium. It is made up of 8 bones. One, so these blue color bones are the cranial bones. Frontal bones, so this is the frontal bones. Then parietal bones, frontal means front, parietal means roof side bones. So there are 2 parietal bones. 2 temporal bones, these are the temporal part. One occipital, this back part, one occipital bone, back of the skull. And this lower part is called hyoid bones. The rest are the these sphenoid bone. They are the sphenoid means wedge-shaped bones, and ethmoid means sieve-like bones. Next, third is hyoid bones. Fourth part is bone of faces. So face is made up of 14 bones, right? First, lacrimal bones. Lacrimal means tear bone. Those are which are near to tear gland. Lacrimal means tear gland. Nasal bones, which are made up of, which are found in the below the nose, and zygomatic bones. This is the cheek bones. 2 zygomatic bones, 2 nasal, 2 lacrimal, and 2 maxilla bones. Maxilla means upper jaw. 1 mandible bones means lower jaw, right? So there are total 14 bones which make the face. So these are the bones of the skull. Is that clear? Vertebral column. Vertebral column, this is the lateral side and this is the posterior side of the backbone. Vertebral column is made up of 4 parts. Cervical, but like backbone is made up of 4 parts. This is the cervical bone, thoracic bone, lumbar bone, sacrum, and coccygis. Right. This cervical part, this is the bone part which is found near to the neck. This is the cervical part. Thoracic part, like the part which is found at the thorax region, that is called thoracic part. Lumbar part, the part which is found near the stomach, that is the lumbar part. Sacrum and coccygis. Right. Cervical part is made up of 7 bones. Thoracic part is made up of 12 bones. Lumbar part is made up of 5 bones. And sacrum and coccygeal, they are the fusion of, look, sacrum is fusion of 5 bones. So 5 bone fusion into 1, right? Coccygeal is the fusion of 4 bones. 4 bones fuses into 1. So in adult person, there are total 26 bones, right? Because the rest of the 5 and 9 bone, they fuses, 9 bone fuses and becomes 2, right? So the backbone is basically made up of 33 vertebrae, but out of them 33, like these 4 and 7, like total 9. Out of 9 they become 2, so 9 minus 2 total 7, right? So in 33 minus 7 means there are 26 bones. So in adult human there are 26 bones, whereas the vertebrae is made up of 33 bones, right? So we give the formula to of the backbone, that is a C7 means cervical 7, T12 means thoracic 12, L5 means lumbar 5, S5 means sacrum, S5, so 5, this bracket represents the fusion of the bones. So S5 and C4. So this is the backbone form. Is that clear? Okay. Next is sternum. Sorry. Yes, then next is sternum. So actually, this dagger-shaped bone, which is found in the front of our chest, that is called sternum. So sternum is divided into 3 parts. This upper part head is called manubrium. This part is called body, and the extreme end part is called xiphoid process. Right. It is 15 centimeter dagger-like bone, and it help in respiratory process. Right. So this is clavicle notch where clavicle is placed. So this is the rib cage, and in rib cage, this is the this is just a sternum what we studied, and in sternum there are basically the 7 true ribs. So these are the ribs which directly fuses with or which directly meets to the sternum. So they are called true ribs. Those ribs which directly meets to the sternum. They are not directly fused with the sternum. Basically, they are remains attached with this blue color structure. This blue color structure is called costal cartilage. So they directly join the sternum. So those ribs which directly join the sternum, their number is 1 to 7. They are the true ribs, right? And they remains connected with costal cartilage. Costal cartilage is a type of cartilage called hyaline cartilage. Now the rest of the 3 bones, 8, 9, and 10, they join indirectly sternum, right? So they join indirectly sternum, like they join to the fuses with the 7th rib, right? So they are called false ribs. They are not called true ribs. Why? Because they are not directly connected with the sternum. So that's why they are called false ribs, right? 11th and 12th ribs are called floating ribs. Actually, they do not fuses with it; they remains floating. They are another end remains closing. So they protect the kidney, and they are not actually uh, connected directly or indirectly to the sternum, right? So the last vertebral column or vertebrae is 12th thoracic vertebrae, right? So 12th vertebrae is the last vertebrae where the respiratory system is. So this is called the rib cage, where the lungs remains protected, and it also helps in the respiratory process. Is that clear? Pectoral girdle, right? So shoulder part. So look, this triangular bone is called scapula, right? In scapula, so this the part of the scapula which is uplifted, this is called acromion process. And this shoulder bone, this is called clavicle. So clavicle fits into scapula with the help of acromion process. There is a girdle-like structure. This is called glenoid cavity. This glenoid cavity is found in the scapula. This glenoid cavity is that cavity where this bone of humerus, this fuses, right? Or rather than this rotate, right? So head of the humerus rotate in glenoid cavity. So just pectoral girdle is made up of two bones, clavicle and scapula. Scapula is called shoulder blade. This is blade-like triangular structure which can be seen in like weak people from the backside. So this is the glenoid pectoral girdle. So keep it in mind, two things: pectoral girdle and glenoid cavity. Yes, they can ask. They can ask this question. It's important. Tell me. Look, now the bones of hand, arm, clavicle and scapula we have studied. So bone start from the here. So there are total 30 bones in our arm, right? One, this larger one is called humerus. Then the lower part, the radius and ulna. So one humerus, one radius, one ulna. So this wrist is made up of 8 ball-like structure. These are called carpal bone. So they are 8, 4 in one row, 4 in another, right? And then there are 5 metacarpal. So they make the palm structure, metacarpal, right? Then there are 14 phalanges. So phalanges means the bones of finger. So toe have only 2 phalanges, right? 2 bones, 3 bones, 3 bones, 3 bones, 3 bones. So there is a phalangeal formula. So completely phalanges or fingers are made up of 14 bones. So they are called phalanges. And it is the formula is 2 is to 3 is to 3 is to 3 is to 3. It's called phalangeal formula. Clear? Okay. Now come to the pelvic girdle. So this is the pelvic girdle, right? So hip bone are known as innominate bone, right? So we have two hip bone means two hips. So where two hip bone means two innominate bone. Every hip bone or every innominate bone is made up of three things: ilium, ischium, and pubis. From this hip bone or an aminoid bone, a nerve passes called sciatic nerve. Sciatic nerve is the longest nerve of or longest neuron of our body. Look, this bone, hip bone, this the largest part of the hip is made up of a bone called ilium, right? Sciatic nerve passes through it, right? Then this lower part, this is called ischium, and this middle one, this one is called pubis. This one, right? So this bone is called actually pubis. So ilium, ischium, and pubis, right? And the fusion of ilium, ischium, pubis, right? All three bone fuses, and they make like the depression that is called acetabulum. This acetabulum, or this in this depression here, the largest bone that is called femur, this bone articulate over here. So acetabulum is that cavity or that depression structure where the femur bone articulate, right? Tell me, pelvic girdle. This is bone of leg. So there are total 30 bones in our leg. So the pelvic girdle is made up of ilium, ischium, pubis. We have already understood. Then the first bone is called femur. Second bone, that is called kneecap, and this is called patella. So patella is actually called kneecap. So kneecap is patella. Then this stronger one is tibia, thinner one is fibula. Then in hand we have studied there are 8 carpals, but here the bones are called tarsals. So these ball-like bones are called tarsals, but they are not in 8 in number; they are 7 in number. So they are 7 tarsals, 3 plus 4, right? Then 5 metatarsals, and again there are 14 phalanges, and the phalangeal formula is 2:3:3:3:3. Look it and let me know if it's clear or not. So type of joint, right? There are 3 type of basically joint: non-movable, slightly movable, and movable joint. 3 movable. So first, non-movable or immovable, these are called fibrous joint. Cartilaginous or slightly movable joint, then synovial or freely movable. So fibrous joint, they are the fibrous joints. So these fibrous joints, look, between two bones, they do not move, right? They get fuses like this, they get jammed. So they are called fixed joint. And the joints which are this fixed joint found in our head are skull is called sutter. Then these are called fixed joint in the teeth and jaw, and again between the tibia and fibula, right? So here the movement do not take place. They are made up of white fibers. They are called fixed joint. Next one is called slightly movable joint. Actually, here very slight movement takes place because between two bones there is a cushion-like structure that is called made up of cartilage. So due to when this patella get pressed, then only the movement takes place. Look, this is first vertebra and this is the second vertebra. Between two vertebrae there are intervertebral discs, right? So whenever the compression takes place, then the movement takes place, right? So these are the band of cartilages, right? And movement takes place between the bones with the help of cushion like this, pressing of the cushion like this structure. So there is a slight movement. Again, between the two hips, there is a symphysis pubis, So this is also made up of cartilage. So movement takes place due to this symphysis pubis only. So, but there is a very slight movement between these two bones, right? So they are called cartilaginous joints or symphysis or slightly movable joints. Is it clear? Third one is, so is these two bonds, joints are clear? Fibrous and cartilaginous joints. Is that clear, Nara? Okay, now the third type of the joints are, they are called synovial or freely movable joints. Right? Look, these are the freely movable joints. They are called synovial joints. So as you can see, this is the structure of knee. So the head of the joint is made up of cartilage. This is a hyaline cartilage, and this is the articular cartilage, right? So this articular cartilage and covered by a membrane called synovial membrane, and it remains, this membrane keep on secreting a fluid called synovial fluid. This is the viscosity of this fluid is like egg white, right? And it remains close by the muscles called articular capsules. So because of this fluid, this fluid is like viscosity like egg white, and it gives the friction to the bones. And these articular cartilage, they work like cushions. They prevent the like bones from getting colliding with each other, right? So this fluid help in movement, right? So this joint is called synovial joint, and this fluid is called synovial fluid, right? Tell me, is that clear? Is that clear, Nara? Now this is the types of synovial joint. This is the there are 6 type of the synovial joint. So pivot joint. So this is found between radius and ulna, right? And atlas and axis, right? So in neck, the joint that is called, it have movement in two planes, right? This plane and this plane. So there are two plane movements. So this is called biaxial joint, right? This is the pivot joint. So what you here you have to do, you have to remember only the examples. Like what are the example of pivot joint? Second type of the joint is called saddle joint. Saddle joint is found between the carpal and metacarpal. So between the wrist and metacarpal, right? Thumb and the hand. So there is only like again biaxial movement. It takes place movement in two axes. So the joint between the carpal and metacarpal are saddle joint. Thumb and hand, like this kind of the movement, right? So this is called again saddle joint. Then hinge joint. Hinge joint just open the door. They open generally in one direction. So they are found in elbow and knee and ankle. Elbow, knee, and ankle. So this is called hinge joint. They open just in one direction. So they are uniaxial joints. Means they move open only in one direction. Plane joint. So plane joint is takes place between two bones where their head is just plane. So carpal and tarsal. The joint between the carpal and tarsal is called uh, plane joint, and they are also called gliding joint, right? Ball socket joint, they are the multi-axial joint, means they can move in any direction. They are most freely movable joint. They are found in shoulder and hip, right? Last but not the least, ellipsoid joint. They are the found between metacarpal and phalanges, right? So metacarpal and phalanges, like they are again uniaxial joint, so they are called uh, ellipsoid. Is that clear? So there are six kind of joint: pivot, saddle, hinge, plane, ball socket, and ellipsoid. Where what you have to do, you have to remember the example of these joints. Now come to the structure of skeletal muscle. Look. So skeletal muscles, they are made up of straight muscles or voluntary muscles. Means they can be controlled by our own waist. So every skeletal muscles is made up of small fibers. So this is a single skeletal muscle. They are made up of fiber-like structure, and every fiber-like structure it have band, and this fiber-like structures are called myofibrils. So myofibril is dark and light color band. They have dark and light color because this is made up of dark and light color protein. They have a pigment called myoglobin pigment, which work like hemoglobin, and it is called muscle hemoglobin. They attaches to skeleton. They help in attachment of the skeletal system, right? Uh, Potassium is the most abundant element which is found in these bones, these muscles. They store the glycogen, means they store the food. They contain the ATP, right? They because they have to work a lot, so they require lots of energy. They contain ATP. Their cytoplasm or protoplasm is called sarcoplasm, and there are certain structure called this blue color structure. They are called sarcoplasmic reticulum, which store the calcium. This is the structure of skeletal bones. Clear? Is that clear, Nara? Okay. Now, below the line, so below the the page, now we are going to study the structure of these myofibrils. Look, this is the structure of myofibrils. So myofibrils are made up of two kind of the protein, right? So light protein. So this one band is called, which is made up of one dark and one light band. This is called sarcomere, right? This is made up of two kind of the protein or two kind of the filament. Thin filament are called actin filaments and thick filament are called myosin filament. Look, now thick filament, this is the thick filament. Thick filament is made up of, they are called myosin filament. So they are the monomer of this. This is a polymer, right? This is a polymer protein. Thick filament are made up of myosin. Myosin is a polymer protein. It is made up of a monomer called meromyosin, right? There are meromycins is made up of two polypeptide chain, right? This is the tail of meromycin. This is the neck of meromycin. This is the head of meromycin, right? So thick filament are made up of myosin, and the monomer of myosin is meromyosin. And meromyosin, they are found in the form of dimer, means two polypeptide chains found simultaneously. It is made up of head, neck, and the tail. Head part contain actin binding site. So yes, myosin protein, this is myosin and have actin binding site. Same thing, actin protein will have myosin binding site, right? So this is the myosin protein. This have actin binding site. This is the ATP binding site. This is the tail, right? Again, now come to thin filament. This thin filament, this green color thin filament, elastic filament, they are made up of three kind of the protein. Troponin, F-actin, this globular chain, this is called F-actin. Troponin, this tropomyosin, this yellow color fiber are tropomyosin, and in between the tropomyosin there are protein called troponin, right? So again, this is the this F-actin is made up of globular protein, right? This globular protein is called, the unit is called G-actin, right? So thin filaments are made up of three kind of the protein: F-actin, tropomyosin, and troponin. Again, F-actin is made up of small units called G-actin. Tell me, is it clear? Now come to the sliding filament theory. How does the sliding of muscles take place? First, go through the video, then we'll come. Look, how does the skeletal muscles, myofibrils, actin and myosin protein, when the contraction of muscles takes place, then actin and myosin slide over each other. And this is explained by sliding filament theory. This is contraction of the muscle. When we contract our hand, then what happens? Then actin and myosin, this contract. And who bring the information? This is the neuron which bring the information for the changes its structure. Now the myosin protein bind with the actin protein. ATP is spent over here. Actin myosin makes the bond, and they slide over with each other like this way. That's how they slide over each other. That's how the muscles they like slide over, right? ATP comes, ATP is spent over here. So that's how when actin and myosin slide, then only the contraction of the muscles takes place. So this was the video for the sliding filament theory. Sliding filament is a 5-marker question. So this is the diagram which I have explained in sliding filament theory. Look, what happened? This is the complete mechanism of sliding filament theory. Motor neuron, they bring the message of contraction of muscles. Impulse comes. When impulse reaches at the top of or at the end of synaptic node, then what happened at the when message reaches? Then calcium ion start coming inside the synaptic node. Due to entry of the calcium ion, these vesicles start moving. So these vesicles, which are filled with acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter, they burst and release the neurotransmitter due to entry of calcium ion from ECF. This acetylcholine is released, right? And this the junction between the neuron and the muscle, this is called motor plate. Acetylcholine get releases in ECF. Muscles have certain protein receptor. They accept, or rather they recognizes the acetylcholine, and entry of acetylcholine takes place. Due to entry of acetylcholine, there are certain endoplasmic reticulum called sarcoplasmic reticulum. They store the calcium. At the entry of acetylcholine, they releases the calcium ion. Due to release of the calcium ion, what happened? Look, the structure of this, look, this is the G actin, means in the filament F actin, unit of F actin, right? So they attaches at the C subunit of troponin protein. When they attaches at the C site of the troponin protein, the structure of troponin changes. Look, the structure of troponin changes, and the active site of G actin open, and due to the binding of actin and myosin takes place, and that's how the muscles slide over each other. That's how the sliding filament theory works, and that's how the sliding takes place. Go through with it and let me know. That's it for this chapter. Sliding filament theory is 5-marker question. From definitely they can ask you the fixed joint type of the joint as a 3-marker question. And 2-marker question can be what is the synovial joint, right? And yes, that is the question. And they can ask you the pectoral girdle and pelvic girdle. These are the important part of this chapter. Now tell me. Done. So all questions clear, Nara? Now for neural system, Nara, we like complete neural system. Complete chapter, Nara? Tell me. Just important point. I can brief you because if you want the complete revision, then it will take one more class, another class, right? So because it's also a neural is a big one, right? So I'm just telling you the important one. Look, in neural control and coordination, what is the important? Uh, the important thing is the function of neural system. First important thing. The another important thing, this one. This diagram, 3-marker question. This diagram, anatomy of neuron. So this will be like 3-marker question. So that diagram is important. Then they can ask you the part of brain. What are the part? Forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain. Here you have to remember the diagram. This is not important. They won't ask you to draw the diagram. Yes, but they can ask you the part of brain, right? And then the function of cerebellum, pons, and medulla means function of hindbrain, right? Function of forebrain hardly they will ask you. Then again 5-marker question will be transmission of ionic membrane ionic theory. This theory, 5-marker question, right? Transmission of impulse. Yes, this is also important. Reflex section, a 3-marker question. This one. Human eye diagram is another important diagram. So this reflex section diagram important, neuron diagram important, human eye diagram important. So what is the diagram of human eye? Again, 3-marker question. Human ear, they won't ask you, they hardly ask you. If one fine day they ask you a tough question, then only they will ask you for diagram. But what they can ask you, they can ask you the mechanism of hearing, this diagram, right? So this is the important mechanism of hearing, diagram of eye, diagram plus explanation of reflect arc, right? Transmission of nerve impulse, again 5-marker question. And function of hindbrain means cerebellum, pons, and medulla. Function of cerebellum, pons, and medulla. So these are the important part of this question. So these are the only questions which they can ask you. Now tell me. Right. So in case if you want want me to revise this question, like complete chapter, then it will again take at minimum 1 hour. Minimum 1 hour, because this is also very big chapter. You can see, right? So when you have your exam, Nara? Oh, tomorrow. Then for tomorrow, then what you have to do? Go through with the human eye. This is the most important. Human eye and reflex section. Human eye, reflex section, transmission of nerve, right? And important question, what I am telling you. Human eye, reflex section, transmission of nerve, and this diagram, neuron diagram. 4 things, they are the important for you. And out of them, 2 diagram, neuron and eye diagram are very important. And transmission of nerve impulse, right? Okay, so fine. There is no time. So all the best for your tomorrow exam, and let me know how did you performed, right? So all the best for your tomorrow exam, right? Bye bye. Fine, Nara? Okay, Nara. Bye bye. Welcome, beta. All the best.